Hi, welcome back to another episode of Team Junior Coffee Talk. Today we have Antito joining us. Hi Antito, how are you today?
Hey Frenchie, good to see you, Em. Always hope you had a good weekend.
Yeah, of course. And I don't know, it's actually good for you since deadline is coming up and whatnot. And I know that for corporate that you just finished, right?
Man, we just finished our tax deadline for corporations September 15th.
Wow.
Literally took us
Must
a
be
month and a
stressed
half
out.
to working 24 hours a day, finishing up all the S corps and partnership. But it's always exciting to be able to maybe even quantify or put that into a lesson learned, right? So that we can share with our audience. But part of it is also the life lesson that you learn from 18 years of work, the interaction with various clients, various cases.
Right.
And the most important thing is what are the takeaways, right? What have you learned?
Right.
With your experience with the interaction, dealing with the IRS, dealing with other various tax law changes. What can you share with people out there that they can be better? Not having to go through the ups and downs of it.
Yeah, so then, I guess it's part of as part of the citizen or just living in this country, you're expected to always file your tax. But then a lot of people are wondering why is it the importance of your tax return and how does that gonna be reflecting, on their financial success, future or even current, Can you share some of that point?
Definitely. Yeah, no, that's a great point. So besides talking about the various tax law changes, refund status, dealing with the IRS, I think the bigger picture, I think that's what you're trying to get at is why is filing tax returns important?
Right.
What is a tax return review to you from a standpoint of where you at in life, right?
I just know every year I was owing tax and I'm just poor.
But what is it, as a practitioner, we look at that and say, okay, I can, in context with everybody else and other similar cases, where is this person at, right? And what room and opportunities are there for this particular situation? Business owner, W-2 income earner, a contractor, a small mom and pop business owner. Where are the opportunities, right? And I literally swear to you, I can look at the tax return, I can tell you where this person is professional, successful, have a great potential for growth in the future, or a person is just kind of going through the minimal, whether it's they're filing the taxes themselves or going through a professional or TurboTax or wherever. The tax return is very, very revealing, right? Not just from a financial standpoint, what a person's financial picture look like, but also tells you where they're going to be. Because remember, everybody's always like, hey, I got to buy a house. Well, they want a tax return. Why do they want a tax return? Because they want to see where you're at financially, right? I want to qualify for a loan. I want to expand my business, right? Your tax return tells them, hey, can this guy afford to absorb more debts?
Or even the stability of their assets.
There's a number makes sense on what their goals and objectives are. And so to your question, I think we want to make it easy for the audience to maybe just narrow down the 5 items that I feel like that's serve as the basis to your business success.
Yeah, and I'm sure our viewers going to be really excited to learn about this because obviously it's in the back of everybody's mind. It's just required, but I just have to do it part of the law. But then why is it important?
Right.
So
I think for me, number one, I look at what is being reported, right? W-2s, Schedule C if you're a business, Schedule E if you have rentals, Schedule D if you have stock trades or capital investments. By looking at that, you kind of see the bigger pictures where they're at, right? Do they have various accounts? Are they losing money in those accounts if it's investment? The interest they earn, like Schedule B, tells me why are they being taxed so much money on the interest? Should that money be in a taxable account or should there be some taxable items, right? Could it be an investments with a 401k, an IRA, or an annuity, or whatever it is that might serve them better without being taxed, right? But it also shows the asset, like what they're having in the bank account. Does that make sense? A W-2 wage, you can see, okay, how much they're making, what they're really taking home. The number is gross.
Right.
What you're taking home is totally different,
Right, right. After taxes and everything is taken
so
out.
when you look at the W-2, you see FICA, food to unemployment, Social Security, federal, and then you see the state part. And you're like, number one thing people always tell me when they look at their W-2, my goodness, what happened to all the money?
Right.
That's not
I
what
always
made.
question every
That's
one
what
of
you
my
made.
paychecks.
It's not what you take home.
Right.
So in a future episode, we can talk about really delving into the specifics of the W-2s and how, you know, that serve as an opportunity for us to strategize and do some tax planning. But to your question, why is tax important in terms of just your overall wealth and financial well-being, is the fact that you can see, number one, the W-2 wages, where you at, the Schedule D, the stock trades, right? Schedule B, the dividends and interest, Schedule E, rentals. And in that particular rental, okay, very, very important to me is, you know, first of all, what is your profession? Are you a real estate investor? Are you a real estate professional? Are you a W-2 income earner and investing real estate passively?
Right.
Because that investment is actually a passive investment. So there's some strategy involved, because everybody think, oh, I got a bunch of expenses in my rental, I can offset that with my regular W-2 income. And that's not always the case based on your profession, based on your activity in that particular rental property. So I can tell how the tax file, whether or not they're maximizing it, whether or not we're doing it the right way by classifying accordingly to our profession. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because there's a lot of people like misconception that, like, you know, the offset of, like, you know, being a renter, and now you're saying that it's based on your profession, it will play a matter into it.
Exactly.
Wow.
So that tax return alone already revealed for me where they're at.
You're like a financial, like, you know, guru now, or like, you know, just predicting like people's financial.
Well,
you know,
in a way,
really
we have to be, right? I mean, you know, I think if you look at my backstories and my experiences, I mean, as a banker, as a stock broker, senior stockbroker at E-Trade, as a IRS general agent, and then having my own business for 18 years, you have to wear different hats. You got to be jack of all trades, right? Because you know, the tax return reveals all that.
Right,
It what your assets are, what your investments, what your active and income activity, what real estate or passive investment you have on the side, how they all interact with one another, right? So to the question, you know, why is tax return so important? It's because of that very reason, the nuance of the various investment, how they're being taxed. W-2 is being taxed as ordinary income, capital gains, stocks, investments, and as you know, ordinary income. Capital gains or capital losses. So that generally stays around 15 to 20% max. Your ordinary tax rate is about 25, 30, depends on your filing status and your various deductions. Then the last part I'll look at the tax return is your Schedule A, your itemized deduction. Right? Yes, there are some law changes within the last couple of years where you can limit, you know, there's a cap of $10,000 on what you can claim on your property tax and your income tax and your personal tax, right? A $10,000 cap, which affects a lot of us because, frankly, what we pay in our state tax and income tax generally is over that $10,000 cap, right? So we're losing because they're only allowing 10, right? Then you look at the other section where the interest paid, right? And you can tell, okay, whether a person has overpaid, if, you know, their interest that they pay is a lot more than most other people. As a practitioner, you see $1,000 tax return, you know what typical mortgage should be. You know what I mean? A $400,000 house, a $500,000 house, what the debt's amount is, what the interest should be, and so that becomes an opportunity for me. My goodness, why is your interest paid $15,000 when the average person is $10,000 most? And it's, oh man, we have 8% interest rate. You know?
Wow. So then you could recommend for them to, like, maybe you should think about refinancing.
Exactly.
You know, get a lower interest. You know.
Oh well, I try to refinance, but my credit is not good, or my income is not. Yes, they are interconnected, right? And of course, now you open a big can of worms because it's like, well, the very reason why you can't qualify for the refinancing is because there are other issues that you haven't resolved, right? Rebuilding your credit, making sure that your income is sufficient enough to a refi, which is kind of crazy, right? When you refi, you're trying to get it to a lower rate, which your cost is lower, but yet the bank wants to see a higher number that you're capable of paying this mortgage, which is supposed to be lower, right? So again, banks have their own criteria, they have their own requirements. You as a preparer and a borrower, the burden of proof is on you to prove to them that you're capable of paying back the loan.
Exactly.
So I think that leads to the next point, is that's what the financial institution look at.
Right, of course.
And in light of COVID, I think I shared with you in the previous episode that I felt like a lot of us, when we needed that grant, when we needed that loan, when we needed financial support, and they wanted to see the tax return or they wanted to see the balance sheet and the profit and loss statement. One, we didn't know how to prepare it. That's the sad part for most of the people we dealt with, because they're accountants or people who have done themselves, do the taxes themselves, did not know how to prepare that. Or they prepared it, but it doesn't look strong enough, right? It's because a lot of time we shoot ourselves in the foot, so to speak, because we lower, the wages or income, max every damn deduction you can think of, or file it incorrectly, not thinking long term.
That's so
right?
sad.
So to the point that, yes, your tax return is important because financial institutions, banks, SBAs, government agencies who qualify you for loans or grant, look at that and see do they deserve $50,000 in grant because they have a business that shows the number of revenue, the number of expenses, the number of payroll.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, because those programs are designed to actually help those businesses who are like, better or the surviving.
Well, kind of get them back on their feet.
Right.
So again, we're going back to, there's no judgment passed, no, crying over spilled milk. This is so that we can get better in the next episode or the next event in case a pandemic like we just had come back.
Exactly.
Right? And we talk about rebuilding our community, rebuilding our business, rebuilding the way we think about life and business is having to acknowledge that yes, mistakes were made in the past, but if this whole pandemic hasn't made us realize that there's a trigger point now, we got to do it the right way moving forward, then nothing will, right? And that comes with me personally, that there are things we look back and say, man, I've been putting that on the back burner, I want to do this, and we didn't do it because of time, capacity, whatever, life gets in the way. Well, shoot, my opportunity, and I'm hoping our audience can see this. If there's never been a time for us to change, this has to
now,
be.
right?
This has to be.
Now is the time.
Don't wait till the next pandemic and start realizing, hey, man, I got to change the way I do things. It's just too late.
Yeah.
This is for peace of mind. This is for building legacy. This is for us to be better, maximizing our skills and abilities. We all know, as a small business owners in our community, the salon, the small restaurant, the mom and pop, we sacrifice way too much.
Yeah.
Right. And we kind of have a disadvantage because of language, culture. I mean, the myriad of things as refugees and immigrants, we don't really have at our disposal all the tools and knowledge and know-how as other communities, right? And it's not to say we're a victim, it's just to say that's the reality of it. Well, acknowledge that, but get better. And I think that's where our goal as Team Q and Yes, to be able to empower them with certain skills and knowledge and know-how.
Right, and we appreciate all the tips and pointers that you just gave, and you're right. If you don't step up and start preparing for the future, just like this COVID just hit everyone and the whole economy, the whole world. Well, nobody was even prepared for it, So it's really good that now we just have an ink for it. You never know what's going to happen in the future. And like you say, building a legacy, right? You want to leave off or, prepare your kids and your, further generation down, for if they were to put in this situation before again,
Well, I would also say that those are all important, but I think let's talk about a selfish reason as well, being an IRS enroll agent, right, not dealing with other audits. Your tax review, where you at based on the fact that how accurate and reasonable and, just overall makes sense to the IRS or to a franchise tax board. So the answer to that question is, why is it important? It's important because it keeps you away from being audited. Right?
That's probably the biggest one.
Right. And people don't realize getting audited, and again, this is what we do every day. So I'm not saying being audited is bad or that not audits are the same. They're not the same, okay? So don't worry, that even if you get into a pickle, we can fix it, we can resolve it. Just don't create something that's unnecessarily, preventable, that could be fixed, right? Don't create trouble when it don't need to be. That means don't have to be so darn aggressive with your deductions. Don't have to be so sloppy in your filing. And that's with us preparing ourselves or a professional. You gotta be on top of that because again, your tax return is everything. In essence, it is everything. So I would suggest that one important topic why your tax return is important is because you want to make sure that you're in compliance, stay within the industry, stay below the red flag, right? Have peace of mind. prevent audits and all the drama of having to,
Being audited.
getting those letters and requiring to not only meet with them and report to them and reply to them, but the time that it takes away from your business, the time it takes away from your everyday life.
Right.
My job as a practitioner and agent in dealing with audit is let me absorb this so that you don't have to deal with it. That's why we do all this as a representative of any cases we take on inside with that power of attorney form. We deal with the IRS A to Z.
Right.
You don't have to do it. But my point being, let's not get to that level. Let be proactive and make sure your taxes are in compliance.
Right.
Right. Make sure that with the claims that we have is within, like I said, industry standards. Right. Being reasonable. Right. Is it ordinary and is it a necessary part of your business?
Yep.
Ask that question. Does that make sense that you have all these assets with a house, a car, but your business loses money every year? You know what I mean?
That's a really great point, man.
Claiming things that just doesn't make sense and thinking like, oh yeah, it never happened to me before, so it never happened in the future.
People always have confidence about that until they get audited and then they freaked out.
Right.
But thank you for sharing all those information, Tito, and always a pleasure having you on our episode. And again, if you have any question, and Tito had already addressed that whether you filing your taxes, you get help or you do it yourself. If you want to have like a second opinion, or if you have someone who is helping you on your taxes and you're not sure where your current financial success or your current situation is, just have a second opinion or reach out to oursalonmoms.com, fill out a questionnaire and be like, hey, can you take a look at my tax? Am I doing good? Anything else, maybe extra income that maybe you could suggest, refinancing my home, or even like, where to invest and whatnot, just reach out. We're here to help the community. So please do not be afraid to just reach out to us, and Tito is always happy to help. Okay. Thank you for joining us on this episode. Thank you, Tito, for joining us.
Thank you, Ann. Appreciate it.
Have a great day, everyone.
Right. Thank you.